I'd like to call a regular Board of Aldermen meeting for Tuesday, August 9th to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of
flag,
the
United States of America,
The Republic.
to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
Indivisible.
indivisible, liberty and justice.
for all.
All right, Trish, roll call. You're on mute.
Alderman King. Alderman Stowe.
King is here.
Alderman Adamowski.
Here.
Alderwoman Tar.
Here.
Alderman Cassetti.
Here.
Alderman Janetti. Alderman Nutt. Alderman Yauman.
here,
Alderman Rivers.
Here.
Alderman Mamone.
here,
President Stewart.
Here.
Alderman Blackwell. Alderman DeLibero. I have 8 present.
And Janetti is on.
And, oh, okay, I have 9 present and 9 present, 4 absent, and 1 vacancy.
Perfect. I declare a quorum. All right, so we have 2 sets of minutes to consider, both from July 12th. We have first the July 12th public hearing minutes.
I make a motion to accept it.
second,
Motion by Rivers, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, second set is also from July 12th. That is our regular board meeting minutes.
Motion. I think it was the amended.
Yes, yeah, the amended July 12th.
Okay. Motion.
Second.
Motion by Rivers, second by Tar, all in favor,
aye,
Aye.
abstaining or opposed. All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, public session. We'll open up the public session. Just a quick reminder for the public, anyone's welcome to speak. Please identify yourself, name and address for the public record. Please limit your statements, questions, whatever, to 3 minutes or less. And we're not going to engage in a Q&A, but when possible, try to answer questions. So anyone who's interested, I see one hand up. First speaker, John Fettern, go ahead. Name and address.
Thank you, Josh. Yep, sure. John Fettern, 63 Hubble Avenue. At the last Alderman meeting, the board approved the sale of the Ocean Drive property to the private developer. And despite the overwhelming sentiment expressed by the public that the sale not be approved, I was not surprised at the vote, as no matter what was said or how much opposition there was, the vote to approve was already pretty well in the bag, and we understood that. However, I was stunned by the events that occurred prior to the vote to sell the property, where Alderman Mamone presented a motion, and I'm going to call it kind of now the Mamone rule, that tried to nullify the longstanding ordinance regarding the sale of city property in our charter. It's Article 20, Section 2, 125. I've talked about it ad nauseum at every meeting. The motion, which also passed, basically stated that the Board of Aldermen could arbitrarily waive the ordinance for this transaction in an effort to negate any future ruling against the city by the courts regarding the Olson Drive transaction. But fortunately for our residents, this Mamone rule has no legal standing whatsoever, as this board does not have the authority to waive an ordinance at its convenience. The charter is the charter, the law is the law, there are no exceptions. However, this does set a very dangerous precedent in Ansonia, and I applaud Alderman Adamowski for abstaining for the vote, for he seemed to recognize kind of the dubious nature of the last-minute motion that was not on the agenda. This is a complete disregard for the order of our city and disregard for the judicial system. And I feel like it's open doors for abuse of power and infringes on the right of every resident in Ansonia. My thought is, what happens when another proposal comes along and there's another instance that, quote unquote, requires a waiver of the laws? What keeps our boards, our commissions, our systems and checks and balances intact? What's the next section of the charter or next ordinance that the board will try to nullify on a whim? The thing is, this won't stand up in court. Since it carries no legal standing, the only purpose of this motion was to extract a prolonged court fight using taxpayer dollars to line the pockets of corporate counsel while attempting to make the plaintiff of the Olson Drive lawsuit acquiesce in the face of mounting legal bills. It's bully tactics once again. It's immoral, but I'm not surprised. Each of you on this call who sit on the Board of Aldermen were elected to this board to represent the constituents of your respective wards. But really that responsibility is meaningless when you believe you have the ability to nullify the very document that gives you the power. Why have a charter and ordinances if we have an administration that's not going to follow it? You're supposed to serve as checks and balances of the administration, but it seems that blind loyalty to the mayor has rendered that duty null and void. It looks like the trend we're seeing nationally from the right towards authoritarianism is unfortunately now embedded right here in Ansonia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Josh, can I add a comment to that since, I was called out specifically on that? John, let me ask you a question. Why didn't the judge uphold the delay of the sale if it was so open and shut?
Tony, it's not a question and answer session.
Okay, all right. I'll make a statement then. The judge did not uphold the ability for the city to not sell the property. If anything,
Exactly.
they asked for it and it was denied by the judge.
Exactly.
So as open as shut as it is, John, it's not that. And that's not a question.
All right, thank you. Next hand up is Mr. Phipps, Bill Phipps. Name and address for the public record, please.
Yes, my name is Bill Phipps and 27 Johnson Street. Evening, gents and ladies. Item 6 of your July minutes reports an affirmative vote of 11-0-1 to award a bid of $846,000 to a vendor to repair the garage levels of the new PD at 65 Main. This building project was authorized in November of 2016 referendum for $12 million. At a special board meeting on 6/29/2020, it was reported that additional funding was necessary to complete the project. A special circumstance caused by the COVID issues and authorized by Lamont Executive Order 7S allowed the board to authorize $3.1 million additional bonding to complete the project. $15.1 million was the total amount. The board has seen fit to authorize this $846,000 additional spending to complete a project that was supposed to be finished with the $15.1 million. Since the police building committee was disbanded, it is incumbent on this board to request a finished report that will document this $15.94 million taxpayer investment and have it included in the permanent city records. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers from the public tonight that wish to address the board? Raise your hand, digital hands. Going twice. Any?
Mr. President, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just confused. I don't understand. A lot of people criticize the mayor and his administration, but nobody ever comes out and says all the good things that we're doing. It's always the negative stuff. I don't understand. Does anybody ever come to the meeting and say, geez, Mayor, geez, Alderman, you did a good job here, you did a good job there? It's always criticism. And I know it's a political thing between parties that you try to make the other person or the other party look bad. But do people realize if we failed, the city fails? Does anybody take that into consideration? I don't understand. I'm getting tired of listening to the bad stuff. Let's listen to some of the good stuff that this administration's done and is doing. And that's all I got to say.
All right, we have your name and address for the public record, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in the 3rd ward and I'm proud of all the good things that we've done for the city.
Now
Thank
you're
you.
Well
one
said,
of the
Joe.
board members. You don't have to identify yourself for the during the public session, but
I'm
I was
just tired of listening to it every meeting. I know somebody come to our meeting and say, geez, Main Street looks great. or Mayor, that was a nice thing you did for the kids up Nolan Field, or our taxes aren't raised again. Does anybody ever say that? No.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's
they do,
always,
Joe.
why didn't you
They
do
do.
this?
They
Why
do,
didn't
they
you
do at
that?
the polls, Joe. They say it at the polls.
It's getting old. It's getting real old. And I know it's a political game, and I know where they're coming from. I was there. I was on both sides of the table. And you know what? I supported the mayor a lot of times, and sometimes I didn't. And I didn't support the other mayors at times. I've been doing this a long time, and I know the political bull crap that goes on. And it's too bad. You want to see the mayor fail, you want to see us fail, you want to see the city fail then. You know? And that's all I
Hey,
got to say. And I apologize if I was a little out of hand, Mr. President.
No worries. Thank you. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Second call. I don't see any hands up. Third and final call for the public session. Seeing none, we'll close the public session. Thank you. We'll move on to public official session. Mayor Cassetti.
Good evening, President Sheward, members of the Board of Aldermen, and residents of the great city of Ansonia. Tonight, you have before you a very significant resolution regarding the merger of the Ansonia and Derby Senior Centers. I want to thank Rick Dunn for his recommendation that Mayor Zekin and I applied to the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments for a regional performance incentive program grant. I am confident that if successful, this grant will help with the capital and operating costs to run a regional center and will provide the necessary impetus for Derby to join our senior center. Combined, we can do really great things for our seniors. I encourage you to support this initiative. There are a lot of activities occurring in our downtown. Demolition prep is being done by our contractor, Stanford Demolition, at 35 North Main Street, with demolition in the next week or so. 158 and 200 Main Street are moving forward. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. It looks beautiful. With their redevelopment project, with another approximately 70 units for residential apartments being constructed. Redevelopment of the remaining former city-owned parcels is occurring as well. State Street design is near completion and will be ready for construction, and the splash pad construction is well underway. My staff will talk more about redevelopment and development projects a little later. This summer has been one of the hottest on record, and I want to make sure that our residents know they can have a place to cool down if needed. Together with our superintendent, Joe DeBacco, and I have made available the Ansonia High School this week, once again, from 11 to 4 until Thursday as a spot for our residents to cool off at. We will determine whether the cooling station will be needed next week, and we will be sure to keep everyone informed. Again, I want to remind our residents to always be mindful of the pets in this heat and make sure they are hydrated. Make sure that. We have a great showing at our Night of Living Dead movie. Thank you to everyone who helped and our residents who attended, and more to come with Rock the Valley. Please remember to save the date for Rock the Valley on Saturday, August 27th at Nolan Field for a fun full day of night and music and activities. I'll see you all there. Thank you, and God bless you all, and God bless the city of Ansonia.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up, Corporation Counsel John Marini.
Mr. President, members of the board, good evening. A couple notes on ongoing issues. Number one, as mentioned earlier in the meeting, a closing on Olson Drive is scheduled to occur this month, likely the end of this week or early next week. And so I hope by the next time we meet, we'll be talking about the resolution of that closing. Number two, police union contract negotiations are underway this month. Our negotiating team, which includes Finance Director Kurt Miller, We'll be sitting down again with the police union, I believe, in a week and a half to 2 weeks to go over a first exchange of proposals, and we will give you periodic updates as the process goes along. Also, relative to our police department, the city has been taking a look behind the scenes at the establishment of a digital surveillance system to aid our police department and to protect our residents in troubled areas of the city. That investigation and technology audit should be substantially complete by the end of the month, and we look to give you more information in September on what that shows. I want to thank all parties for the settlement concerning the Burns construction case. Of course, that was resolved in a way mutually agreeable to the business, to the residents, and we're really proud of everyone involved to pitch together on making this work. You're going to see this come up on agendas for planning and zoning and ZBA, and that's because of a statutory requirement that those commissions do approve the settlement. But the parties themselves are very happy with how this was resolved. And finally, as the mayor said, we're looking for support, big support, for our application to NVCOG for regional dollars to facilitate our regional Ansonia Derby Senior Center. NVCOG through Rick Dunn has let us know that there is state money, perhaps up to $1 million to benefit both sides, Ansonia and Derby, in regionalization of the senior center. This is, of course, an amazing incentive that can benefit both communities in a major way. But we're looking, of course, for support on behalf of that application to NVCOG and to make sure we can go forward and see what money could be on the table for our Valley communities. Big thanks to Rick Dunn for bringing this grant opportunity to our attention. And of course, we look forward to the support of this Board of Aldermen and the Derby Board of Aldermen to plunge ahead and capture these dollars. With that, any questions?
Yes, I have one. John, so how long is this grant for? Is it for just a one-time thing, or is it for a couple of years, or?
The funds, the potential here, right, would be funding that could stretch on for years. One of the considerations that NVCOG will be looking at in applying is whether we need to get capital funds or operational funds. I think that the idea would be to pursue capital funds. So this would reduce the capital cost for both communities. It would pay down that capital cost, the cost of constructing the senior center that we've discussed in the past. But we do need to determine whether that is an eligible cost to cover. If it turns out that we could only pursue operational cost, then you're likely going to see an amount of money that covers the budget for both communities for several years. So either way, it's going to be a windfall for the communities, something that makes it a no-brainer to move forward. But what form it comes in, that's going to really depend on the eligibility of the costs.
Okay.
It's going to be, it looks that if we're successful, this could be very substantial, truly keeping the costs down in both communities and really rewarding both communities for the decision to work together. So it's going to, I mean, it's already better working together, keeps the cost down for both cities, but this regionalization money will make it even better than that, incentivizing the cooperation.
And John, can I ask just a quick follow-up on that? With regards to the grant application is separate and aside from any agreement that the two communities would enter into in terms of long-term operating costs, and that still would have to be negotiated separately. Is that right?
Yep, that's absolutely correct. And of course, we were at a point where this board did authorize an arrangement, right? And that wound up with the Derby Board of Aldermen and didn't move beyond there yet. But this application is entirely separate from that, entirely separate consideration. So my guess is that if this application were to be approved, we would then go back and talk about terms, talk about the actual agreement. And that, you know, the terms could very well change depending on the funding that we would receive from the state.
Okay.
John, I have a question on that too. If at some point this does go forward, would that include some reimbursement for the costs that we're laying out for this initial build?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
So,
they would become partners with us from the initial onset of this project and what we already authorized?
well, so there was
Are you-
there was an arrangement with Derby that in which we talked about sharing capital costs. But if there's going to be funding available from the state for capital costs, I think we would then have to revisit the necessity of it, right? And we would take a look at what an acceptable arrangement moving forward would be. And as I told Chicago, we don't know if this money can be applied to capital costs or whether it has to be applied to operational costs. That's a point that Rick Dunn had raised and that we need an answer to. But either way, the money is going to the bottom line to benefit both communities. So, as Kirk could explain, the way we had structured capital costs, sharing capital costs, was sort of getting a contribution every year. So it's very possible we can get funding to pay those capital costs off immediately, right? So I think we have to wait and see. Number one, is the application successful? And number two, how much funding will the communities receive? And how can we use it before we can answer questions about what our arrangement with Derby would look like?
So Derby's not paying anything right now in terms of the construction that we're footing the full bill for?
So in the current proposal that went to Derby, the answer is yes, they would be. So the current proposal called for Derby to contribute, I believe, $300,000 towards the build out. Now that proposal was not approved by the Derby Board of
Right.
Aldermen. Derby did raise some issues with receiving funding to incentivize this project. They really wondered why their state representative and their state, legislators had not been able to bring funding into this project. And we thought, wow, that is a very good point. And we did bring, we had Rick Dunn at the table and brought this to his attention. And he believes that this application could be a good way forward for us. So right now, there's an offer on the table from us to Derby, but it hasn't been acted on by Derby. But now there's this new opportunity to bring additional funds in, I think, to facilitate this, to really make this arrangement work. But we're going to have to see what state money is on tap before we revisit the agreement.
John, this is not a question. Can you mute
Yeah,
these numbers that are unmuted and they're just going rogue? It's
Let me see.
8274 or 8724 is live. There's a lot of background chatter.
It ends in 2-4. I see that.
Yeah,
Oh, yep. Hold on. Got it.
thanks. Any other questions from the Alderman for Corporation Council tonight? Nope. All right, moving on. Sheila O'Malley, Economic Development.
thank you, President Stewart, members of the Board of Aldermen. A lot of what I have to discuss is probably covered under the resolution, but I'll just touch on a few things that the mayor talked about. The splash pad. We have done all the trenching and are waiting on, and did put in the electrical panel, and are waiting on a contractor for the installation of the pad. So trying to get some quotes on that. Not sure what the cost of that's going to be at this point, and we will report back to you when that's going to be happening. Demo prep, as the mayor mentioned, by Stanford Demolition. They are doing some abatement work prior to the preparation of the demolition. And utility shutoffs have been a little challenging because all of those buildings are sort of interconnected. So I'm just waiting on UI for the shutoff. Nothing, not having to do with anything on their end, but more of locating the proper utility shutoff points. There's been a lot of interest in our RFP for SHW Building 12. So we're extending that deadline for another couple of weeks. That information is on our website. There's also a lot of interest in the Farrell buildings. One large tenant that is interested in the Farrell buildings. But as I said before, there's no space left for development. So we are working to prepare for these sites, to prepare for when the city will own these sites. The potential for redevelopment is great in Ansonia and in the valley. So we have to be prepared for that and don't want these opportunities to pass us by. John DeCarlo and Christine O'Neill are here from the COG to answer any questions on the resolution coming up with respect to the waste, the food waste. And I'm just going to make a couple of quick points when we get there. There are a couple of grants. One of the grants, the Brownfields one, we already received it. We were awarded the grant. We need the resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement with the state to receive the funds. And the other is a new grant opportunity that I don't really want to talk too much about, but it's coming up in the agenda. And I think that's it for now. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer, except for Chicago.
Chicago, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, actually.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
So what is the timeline on the splash pad? Okay, a
You know,
rough
well,
time.
the mayor would like that splash pad done by mid-September. And he's given me a very, short time frame. So
Okay,
we're trying.
So then you got to get it done.
Yeah, it's kind of a specialty to install these splash pads. A lot of contractors don't want to do that. Can do it, but are not interested because it's a bit complicated. So we'll see. As soon as we can sign somebody up, then it'll move quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for economic development tonight from the aldermen?
I have one, Sheila.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to you and the mayor. I know I've been a bug in your ear about this, but the telephone poles on Wakely Avenue, the utility company is finally out there doing something about it. So thank you very much.
All
I
right.
didn't know that there's a couple, there's, I think 2 left. And I didn't
Okay.
know if there was a schedule for them to come back out. And then the follow-up to that is that when Public Works can come out and fill in the boxes where the poles used to be.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have that. I don't want to put you on the spot. You probably.
They're coming back out, Joe. I know they're coming
Great.
back out. The mayor's been relentless on this, and
I know.
I poke at them whenever I can. So they're coming back out, and we'll make sure Public Works knows about backfilling.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to Chief Fiscal Officer Kurt Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to all the board members and everyone else in attendance. The fiscal year 22 audit is underway. Myself, Kim, Richie, and Rick Belden all met with our auditor, John Acquavello, to start to put our plan in place. We're finishing up a few internal pieces that need to be done prior to John's team coming in to start their testing. The expectation is to have the audit completed and submitted prior to the end of December. We're going to push very hard to have that done, and I'll continue to provide updates each way as we move along. The audit itself, as I said, is underway, but we're still working through the final adjustments for fiscal year 22, and I expect that will take us into September. At the last vote meeting, we completed a series of cleanup transfers to get everything in order. I'd like to recognize both Richie and Kim for their efforts in this process. They built a giant spreadsheet that I was able to use to walk the members of both through step by step and made things very easy, very clear to understand. So their hard work and effort certainly made things easier on everyone else. Fiscal year 23 is starting off well. I expect to have some better modeling in September and October to try to set some realistic expectations for the rest of the year. You've all been copied on a string of emails that have been going back and forth related to state funding for the loss of revenue due to the lowering of the mill rate on motor vehicles. Initially, we had been told that the state of Connecticut would make us whole through the municipal transition grant. State projections had us estimated to receive $636,501. our projected revenue loss was $730,451. And if you remember, we all discussed this in some detail during the budget process. We made a decision, though, to budget the full amount under the expectation that we would be receiving that full amount from the state of Connecticut. However, we received the payment from the state in the amount of $636,501. So they stayed true to the numbers that they had put out, leaving us $93,950 short. We've already begun the process to identify areas in the budget to close this gap, and I do not expect it to be an issue by the end of the year. Also, during the email string, State Representative Rochelle brought up the MRSA account money, and that since we would be receiving that for the first time ever, we will be made more than whole. Initial MRSA estimates for the city had us receiving $422,051. During the budget process, we set an expectation of only $400,000. So if things do go as stated, we would pick up an additional $22,051, closing our potential projected deficit to $71,899. But as you all saw by the string of emails, I'm not 100% sure at this point what MRSA payments we're actually going to receive. There's been some back and forth. Are we going to get payments from fiscal year 22? Are we going to get a payment from fiscal year 23? Are we going to get both? So we're getting conflicting reports out of the state as to the amount of revenue that we're going to receive. You know, we received a letter in January from OPM saying that we would not be receiving the fiscal 22 payment. Then I guess the legislature made some changes and we would be receiving it, but we wouldn't be receiving it in fiscal 22. We'd actually receive it in fiscal 23, and we'd also receive another payment in fiscal 23. So it's extremely confusing at this point, and I'm just not 100% sure what we're ultimately going to get. The first payment, if we do get a payment, is expected to arrive at some point in September or October. But again, as you all know, these MRSA payments have been promised to towns and cities now for several years, and we have yet to receive any payments. And then finally, we are still waiting on the second tranche of ARPA funding. To date, we have not yet received anything. The money should have arrived at some point back in June. We did have to fill out some audits information for OPM for them to release the funds. So once the state receives the money, they're required within 30 days to move the money on to the towns and cities. So that money should be expected somewhere between the 15th and the 20th of August. But again, until we have that money in hand, we're certainly not going to make any comments or make any judgments. Again, we're already 2 months or so behind schedule. So that is a little concerning that the state and the federal government have not moved this money forward, particularly when towns and cities have projects earmarked and need that second tranche to either complete those projects or to continue moving projects forward. The amount outstanding that we're waiting for is about $2.7 million, right in that ballpark. So with that, I will close my report. Unless you guys would like to hear some fun and exciting facts about the Public Works Department, I can do that as well. So just let me know what you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, I have one question.
Well, that's all you get, Chicago. So enjoy
I
it.
know. I want to hear something about the Public Works Department.
So as you know, the mayor has asked me to operate as in an interim capacity at Public Works, just to kind of help us out, help us over the hump. Now that Mike DeLessio has retired, you know, I think things are going well. We're trying to institute some new changes. We're trying to make Public Works a little bit more proactive as opposed to reactive. You know, we have a 3-week plan out schedule that we use now, which I'm able to forward up to the mayor, to John, and to Sheila to kind of help them with their planning as well, with their discussions with residents, gives them a better idea and a better understanding about when we're targeting to do things. But, you know, unfortunately, we're still a bit behind. We're working hard to get caught up. And, as I mentioned before, we're now scheduling out the full year. So in September, myself, Sean Rowley and Mike Eamon, who are the two foremen, and I are going to sit down with a ton of input from the mayor. We're going to plan out the next 12 months. So, when's the expectation of doing potholes? When's the expectation of, doing curbing and things like that? So we can have this schedule in place so we know that, middle of March to the beginning of April, we're going to be doing all the potholes and all the curbing in the city and get those done and out of the way. So again, we're trying to be a bit more proactive. I'm also in the process now of having one-on-ones with each of the employees. So we're going through and we're talking about their strengths and weaknesses. We're talking about the strengths and weaknesses of the department, things that they'd like to see. Once I get through that process, which will be done next Tuesday, at that point, I'm going to take all the information that I've compiled and sit down with the entire public works staff. And we're going to go through and we're going to talk about what the new public works department could or should look like. And they're going to be a part of the planning. They're going to be buying into this plan going forward. One of the things the mayor asked me to do was to, we're given this opportunity to reset public works if need be. So he wants to make sure that we're giving it a full evaluation. And when we hire a public works superintendent, ultimately, we're hiring the person for the structure that we want. So we need to make that determination. Obviously, that will be, discussed with you folks as well. But I think we're definitely heading in the correct direction with public works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on. Next up, we have Ansonia Police Chief Wayne Williams with us.
Good evening, President Stewart, members of the Board of Aldermen. I wanted to give you a quick update on some personnel issue. I just wanted you to be aware, I've gotten some questions recently about, how you're doing with your staffing. So I'm going to do a quick rundown for you. That we have one officer retired this week. One officer is retiring next month. We have 2 officers out injured on off-duty injuries. Both are going to be long-term. We have 2 officers on extended leave. We have 2 officers trainees in the New Britain Training Academy, 1 in Meriden Academy, 2 in Bridgeport's Academy, and 1 going to Waterbury's Academy at the end of the month. We also have 2 officers currently in field training, and we have several openings. So we're operating right now at about 68% staff for our agency. We're hoping that will change, but all of these that are in the academy are not expected before the end of the year. And then when they come out, they have to do another 400 hours of field training. So just in case anybody was asking, I wanted to kind of just give you an overall brief about where we are with staffing. We are working with the finance department and Ford Motor Credit on purchasing several vehicles to replace aging vehicles in our fleet. We are trying to make our money go a little farther. So we started a lease program last year, and we're going to continue that lease program this year. Still having ongoing discussions with the school superintendent about security at the schools. For those who are familiar with Officer Berry, he will be returning to high school at the end of this month to continue as the school resource officer at the high school. We are in talks with them about adding a school resource officer to another school in the future. The last thing I really do want to talk about is the police accountability bill. I know this Alderman Mamone, this is his pride and joy. He loves talking about this. We are finally on our path to accreditation. It is going to be a long path. The state has given us our Tier 1 inspection date, which is January 31st of 2023. So yeah, in 6 months, they expect us to be Tier 1 accredited, which means we basically have to rewrite all of our policies, et cetera. We have a lot of work to be done. Working with the accreditation staff at the academy, the Daigle Law Group on policy adjustments. Lieutenant Froehlich is kind of taking the head on some of those. We also have using Power DMS as one of our online management. So we are trying to get to the time constraints for the Tier 1 inspection. To do that, we are going to be looking at moving an officer into the accreditation role. But I will update you as we get a little closer to that. And city events, the Ansonia Seymour Fireworks went without issues. Paracon also went without issues. That was held at the Armory on June 16th and 17th. When we are working on staffing the Holy Rosary Festival that's coming up this weekend, we may get possible assistance from Seymour to cover some of the staffing openings. And we're in the planning phase for staffing security for the Rockdale Valley. If you have any questions, I am open to them. Otherwise,
Alderman for the chief.
Yes, Chief. I know that you're kind of short, short on staff, but I have to mention the things that I'm hearing. People going down to Nolan Fields, doing, donuts at all times of night. So I'm just, from my lips to your ears, that's what I'm hearing the most about.
So just so you're aware of which, if you actually come down to the police department and look in our parking lot, you'll notice there are some donuts in our parking lot. We've been dealing over the last 2 months with a group of individuals operating stolen vehicles that they're stealing from car dealerships. They're now stealing high-end vehicles that are rear-wheel drive so that they can do donuts. If you look in Nolan Field, there's the majority of them, but if you check some of the other streets, you'll notice them on Wakely Avenue and in some intersections. And we have been chasing them around, but not chasing them because we can't chase them because they're stolen vehicles.
Yeah.
So we have made some arrests recently at people's houses that we have gone to out of town for some of the suspects, and we are working together with multiple agencies to identify these stolen car suspects and to arrest them. I understand that the donuts in the parking lot are annoying, but the fact that they're driving stolen cars is, are the felonies that we're trying to address. But I'm aware of the Nolan Field. So we try to have the officers up there when they're not doing something else. But I will tell you that the officers have encountered multiple of these vehicles recently.
Yes, I know it's happening all over. I mean, I go to towns that I'm actually working in, and I see a lot of donuts all over. So it's not just here.
Nope, I don't want you to think we're ignoring it. We're definitely dealing with it. But the majority of them have been stolen vehicles over the last couple of months that are doing it. And obviously they don't pull over for the officers.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, I got a question on that. Any repeat arrests, when you're picking guys up for this stuff?
So there are, I'm going to be light about this. They are suspects that we have encountered and arrested in the past, or that other towns have encountered or arrested in the past.
Say no more. Say no more. That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
And unfortunately, there is a mixture of juvenile and adults.
Yikes. Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions or comments for the chief? Will we have them?
Josh, I have a question.
Yep.
Hi, Chief Williams. I sent you an email about a potential Facebook page that some of the residents had sent to me. I just want to know if you had a chance to review that. It just talked about possibly putting out statistics, maybe once a month, keeping everybody informed with the arrest situation in our town.
So I did take a look at it, and I've actually got to reach out to, because I think the example you gave me was from Milford.
Yeah.
I want to find out how they're going about doing that. I'm assuming, they're about 3 times the size of us, so I'm sure they have the staffing that's doing that. But I want to find out why what statistics there, because I noticed on that thing you sent me, there was only 6 different categories. Apparently you can't have a catalytic converter in the city of Milford. Based on their statistics. But I have taken a look at that. We have, obviously you can get any of those records here if you came to the police department. So we're going to take a look and see which ones are the most viable if we wanted to start publishing that out on a Facebook page. I will say that one of the issues I have seen in the past and other departments have talked about is you're usually publishing all the negative things and they're not being put into perspective
Context,
as
yeah.
to what else you're doing. So I definitely do not want to promote bad things for the image of
No.
the city. But I also believe that we should have transparency about what's going on as long as we can have perspective to it. So no, we're going to take a look at it. I'm dealing with people on vacation right now, so I'm trying to find people to do certain things, but that
I
is
hear
one
you.
of the.
I just wanted to put it on your radar. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's on my radar. Thank you very much.
Chief, Alderman.
Yes, Alderman Cassetti.
Chief, I was just wondering, this police accountability bill that you've been adhering to and trying to achieve the tier 1, has it helped you accomplish your goals as far as law enforcement in the city?
That's a great question. And I guess when we get to the final outcome, I will have a better idea. I will say this, the accreditation for police departments is a great thing to have. It basically takes the best practices from across the country, across the state, and you put them into operation in your agency. My concern is the timetable and the being forced to do things so that I hate to say, to do the analogy of you're teaching to the test, but I just want to make sure that that's not what we're doing. But some of the things that we're discovering are definitely things that will benefit the department and benefit the operation here, make it more efficient and help the city. But I don't want to come out with a general, yes, this is going to be all great, because I want to make sure I know all the aspects of it before we get there.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, sir.
Other questions for the chief?
Just one comment, Chief, if I may. It's Alderman Yauman. I just wanted to bring to your attention a couple of complaints that I've gotten, the same complaints that I usually get during the summer months on Wakely, just cars traveling at a great rate of speed. I think it goes hand in hand to Chicago's comment as well, because I think it's a lot of the same cars that are ending up doing donuts down Nolan, and they've been later than usual, and also some noise complaints as well. I know you're a bit short-staffed with vacations issues there, but you can put somebody over on Wakely Ave on Fridays and Saturday nights. Thanks, Chief.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. We've actually been enforcing some of the, especially some of the speeding issues up there. Again, I will say some of that goes hand in hand with the stolen vehicles. They just could care less about anything, any law that's in place. But we have issued some very large infractions and misdemeanor summonses up there for the excessive speed. So we will continue that.
Appreciate the hard work, Chief. Thank you.
All right, no problem, sir.
Chief, I have one question that came out of the recent fire commission meeting. The fire department had sent a number of streets in for examination that they were deemed to be, I don't know, the word problematic during fires, and you guys investigated those and sent a report back. And my question is, two of the problem streets, your comment was something along the lines of that the signage was accurate, but it was an enforcement issue. And I guess my question is, what's the most efficient way for us to ensure that the enforcement is there, then, considering it, it's properly signed?
Yeah, so what happened was, you're right, I think there were 4 or 5 intersections. Some we actually added signage to. I had to get the police commission on board to change signage. It's like, I believe that was Clarkson Street at Franklin was one of the ones we pushed cars away from the intersection. The ones that I mentioned were enforcement issues. Those are basically, if there's a car parked illegally, such as in front of a fire hydrant or within 25 feet from a corner, et cetera. Those are what I mean by enforcement is those are things that the officers would go out and enforce and would write tickets for. What I would suggest is anybody who comes across one of those, just call into our dispatch and say, hey, listen, there's a car parked in violation on this street at this location. And when the officer is free, they'll send them out there to issue tickets and try and resolve some of it. We've also tried to talk to some of the people in those neighborhoods to try and move those along. There is one that I'm trying to figure out the best solution to, and that is it involves a church.
Yep, that's what I was thinking of.
And yeah, and the parking during church services, I think we would all be in agreement that we don't want to start, knocking on the door during church services. And so I've got to come up with a way to resolve that one that benefits everybody, including in those neighborhoods. But we'll push it out again to the officers about those violations to make sure if they're driving over there and they see the violation to just ticket the cars. But if anybody has a complaint, they can call that into us. But I don't think it's signage.
Yeah, the church one was the one that I immediately thought of, in that you're not going to wait until it happens and then call it in, because they're concerned, a truck barreling into that site or near there, and there's someone illegally parked, So I guess maybe there's a way to proactively avoid that just on church days, Sundays, whatever.
Yeah, we would have to, I guess we would have to put up some signage maybe that indicates you can only park there during church services. Because if we restrict that area, they're not going to have anywhere to park for their church services.
Right.
But that might also be something with the fire department, if they could try and find a reroute, especially knowing on Sundays, Saturday afternoons and Sunday mornings, that might be something that they may want to try to reroute, knowing that they'll run into that.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for your efforts, by the way.
No problem, sir.
Appreciate it. Any last minute questions? We've given you enough. All right, thank you, Chief.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, that ends the public official session, and we'll move on to committee reports. Finance Committee.
Josh, I'll make a motion to pay all bills if deemed correct.
Motion to pay all bills by Mamone, if found correct. Do we have a
Second.
second by Yauman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Let's see. There were a few reports that were in the packet that don't require any action, but I just would like to maybe get a general motion to accept all other reports not on the agenda in your package.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Cassetti, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, municipal reports. Got the boat recommendations from the, what was the date of that meeting? I don't have it in front of me, but I'm just seeking a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Motion from Cassetti. Second by
Tony.
Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Any abstaining? Carries unanimously. Thanks again. Next up, tax collector report. Gotta find it. This month's tax collector report.
Anybody?
So moved.
Second.
Who made the motion?
That was me, Josh.
Oh, motion by Adamowski, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Our motion carries again. And then we have the request for refunds in the amount of $4,293.69 if deemed to be correct.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Malone, second by Yauman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposing or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Next up, accidents and claims. We have three claims: 0722-1035, 0822-1036, and 0822-1037. What's your pleasure?
Motion to refer to
Refer-
council.
Second.
Motion to refer to council by Yauman, second by Tar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. We have no communications. We have no resignations. So it moves on. We have four resolutions. Some of these were mentioned. I'm hoping Sheila is here for.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, so you could potentially fill in the blanks on some of these. She did mention some of these in her update. Resolution 1 is the already received $200,000 DECED certified resolution of the governing body regarding $200,000 round 15 brownfields assessment grant.
Motion approved.
Yeah, this is to accept it and be able to spend. Motion to approve by Yalman,
Second.
second by Rivers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep. Number 2 resolution was also mentioned. This is acceptance of grant funding from Deep Sustainable Materials Management Program. We did have a presentation a few months ago on this. Sheila mentioned this in her update as well. This is the to participate in the pilot program with funding of $420,500 with the hopes of hopefully reducing the tipping fees at the city.
And
We can,
yeah, Josh, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just want to make it very quick because we did have a long presentation last time. John and Christine from the COG are here if you have any questions. But just a couple of points. One is, yes, the tipping fees are going through the roof. We're trying to save money for our taxpayers, keep the taxes stable. And this is one of the creative ways that DEEP has come up with to remedy those, help to remedy the high tipping fees. And the second point I'll make is that it's a pilot program. So it's no cost to the residents or the city while the pilot program is running. The bags are free. If you want to participate, we would love to have full participation because that's how we know if we're getting, if we're going to make a reduction in our tipping fees. But if you don't want to participate, of course, you do not have to participate. And we're just hoping that, you know, if people want to separate their food waste and put it in the same bag with the garbage, that's what we're hoping they'll do. And we can, and DEEP and others can determine, you know, how much food waste, what the tonnage is, and what that will help, how that will help defray costs. And that's basically it. It's a pilot program, so you accept the $420,000 plus from DEEP. The bags are given out. People can use them or not use them, as I stated earlier. And that's about all. That's it for the program.
Any other questions from any of the other aldermen?
Just one
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
just one clarifying point, as I understand it, is that beyond the pilot program, there's no long-term commitments on behalf of the city with this. Is that right, Sheila?
Correct. If it turns out it's you know, people don't like it, our residents are not comfortable with it, or for whatever reason, we do not have to continue. But we're hoping it's successful, and I'm sure the state is as well. But if not, then we tried.
And can I just ask, my understanding was it's voluntary as well. So if an individual household decides not to participate, that's okay. Is that correct?
Yes, it's
Okay.
voluntary.
Okay. Sounds like a worth trying for 420K. And any other questions for Sheila or for the COG members? Steve?
I think Joe Cassetti was ahead of me.
Oh, go ahead, Cassetti, and then Adamowski.
Well, it looks like it'd be a worthwhile program for us to get involved with. Those that are of the mind that we could save money by doing this and help our environment. I think it's a good suggestion, good program. And what do we got to lose? I don't see anything where it's a negative benefit to us.
Great. And Steve?
Yes, Sheila, can you describe the process and communications that residents would get, you know, relative to getting the bags and instructions on how to use the bags?
Yep, good questions. There is an app that people can download. And for those people who are not inclined to download an app or can't download an app, we are going to do some, and John DeCarlo has more information about this, but newspaper ads, we're going to have locations for people to pick up the bags. We will make them accessible to those folks who can't download the app or don't have access to the app. So send out, we'll do some press events around the bags, the distribution of the bags. Go ahead, Christine.
I was going to say, yeah, so hi, I'm Kristen Brown. I'm the consultant for DEP on the project. And basically, all of the residents will receive a mailer that will have 2 of the food waste collection bags already inside of it. And then there'll be a listing of stores that will be carrying the bags where you can bring in a voucher to get your free bags. There'll also be other areas in town where we'll have distribution tents set up to help residents get their bags and also to help residents download their app so that they can communicate back and forth about the program with the program administrator. So there'll be a lot of outreach to help residents get started on the program, and hopefully they'll all love it. You know, I of course believe in it, so I'm really excited that you guys are interested.
Thank you. And thank you guys for your legwork the last time. Joe Cassetti, did you have another question?
Yeah, just to be sure, this wouldn't require any additional pails or barrels or anything to specifically pick up?
Nothing, Joe. It goes right in your garbage bin.
Okay.
Right in the garbage bin.
Right where it would end up anyways.
Correct.
Correct. It's just in a special bag.
Separate bag.
All right.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to take the plunge on this resolution number 3?
Yeah, I will. I'll make the motion.
Motion to accept by Rivers,
Second.
second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Moving on, and thank you guys again for coming last time and this time. Well, fingers crossed that it's success. Resolution 4, the mayor mentioned this. Actually, I think everybody mentioned this leading up to this. This is the resolution to support the mayor's application to the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments for Regional Performance Incentive Program Grant in support of Ansonia and Derby Regional Senior Center. Obviously, this has been in the news a little bit. I normally don't read the resolutions, but I want to read this because it's very brief and it has the details. And this would, again, trigger a new discussion and new negotiations. And hopefully, it plays out. Thanks again to Rick Dunn and the NVCOG for bringing this to our attention and for their work with the mayors, and to both mayors for supporting it. And I wasn't at the meeting, but I did see a comment in the newspaper from the Derby Board of Aldermen that mentioned, their concern. One of the concerns was that the state had not paid them any attention in the past, and they were concerned about funding. So this sounds like this could be very good news if it plays out. So resolution supporting the application of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments NVCOG's application for Regional Incentive Performance Grant RPIP funding to regionalize the Ansonia and Derby Senior Centers. Whereas Ansonia is building a brand new 9,000 plus square foot state-of-the-art senior center for our residents at 65 Main Street, and whereas the city of Ansonia would like to regionalize with the city of Derby's senior center with Ansonia's, we believe our seniors deserve a brand new facility with amenities and invite city of Derby seniors to join with us. And whereas the NVCOG has offered to make an application for RPIP funding to the Connecticut Office of Policy and Management, OPM, to help defray the operational and or capital costs of this endeavor. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ansonia Board of Aldermen supports the efforts of NVCOG to make an application for RPIP funds to the Connecticut OPM for the regionalization of the Ansonia and Derby Senior Centers into a new facility located at 65 Main Street, Ansonia, Connecticut, for the benefit of the residents of both Ansonia and Derby. And that was going to be a joint effort through both mayors who've both been in support of this, and the COG.
Hey, Josh, can I ask well, I have a statement and a question based on the resolution.
Sure.
Mr. Marini, are you still there?
I don't see him. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he's there. Hey, John, so the last segment there, the now therefore be it resolved, it's written from the perspective of the Ansonia board. There's no mention that, you know, Derby has to adopt this resolution as well. Do we need to state that in here, that, you know, they need to adopt it in order for the application to go out, or do we stand a chance to get these funds if we were to apply on our own?
Well, I think from the perspective of tonight, we just want to show that we're in support. And next week, Derby will be asked the same question. So I don't think it matters about the particulars of, the resolution, framing what's going on. It just needs to be clear that you're in support of making the application.
Yeah, I think we've been clear all
Tony.
along. I think we've been clear all
Yeah.
along that, we support this. So,
Tony, that's a good question, because it has to be a regional effort. So both
Right.
communities have to support it.
So therefore, if we vote this yes, and Derby still has some sort of issue with it, then the application is dead. Is that right, Sheila?
That's correct. You need 2 communities or more.
Okay. So unless we could find another community to do this with, I'm gonna kind of make a motion as well as kind of a statement to go along with it. And Josh, I guess you could, if there's other questions or whatever, but I'm gonna make a motion.
Are there other
Go ahead.
questions separate from this on this initiative? I thought, Bobby, do you have a question or no? No? Okay.
Judge, I don't have a question, but I do have something for discussion once we have a motion and second.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to get, a motion, and then we can go into discussion.
Tony.
Tony, go ahead, Tony.
So I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the resolution in front of us, Josh, and just a statement to the Board of Aldermen for Derby that, this is a pretty important initiative, not only for both cities, but for seniors as well. And just gonna ask them to strongly consider approving this resolution or adopting the resolution on their side, so we can go ahead, put this application together, hopefully get the funds awarded, and just get the seniors what they're just deserved. So that's my motion.
Second.
All right, so motion by Mamone, second by Cassetti. Okay, now we can move into discussion. Steve, you had a comment? You're muted. Adamowski.
Sorry, just a couple of things. I did want to echo the thanks to Rick Dunn at the Norfolk Valley Council of Governments for his engagement in this matter. This is, I think, what we look to a Council of Governments for in terms of leadership on issues like this. I also, though, want to thank members of our own Ansonia administration, particularly Mayor Cassetti and John Marini, for their fortitude, flexibility, willingness to continue to pursue this merger of the Ansonia and Derby senior centers, despite the recent setbacks. There's no doubt, I think, in anybody's mind that the seniors in both communities will be better served with a significantly improved facility and program if the senior centers are regionalized, and that the taxpayers in both communities will also benefit from the efficiency of a combined center. We know that change is hard. Parochialism often has a tenacious grip, and trust is fragile and hard to build. But I'm confident that once the benefits of the Ansonia Derby Senior Center are experienced, this will serve as a building block for other shared services for the benefits of both communities. And again, I just want to convey thanks to everyone involved in this ongoing effort.
Bravo.
Well said, Steve.
You're welcome, Steve. Thanks, everyone.
All right, any other comments or questions?
I have one comment. I won't say it as eloquently as Steve did, but it's time that we get this done. To our brethren in Derby, pass the same resolution.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we have to look past anything and just say, this is right for the seniors, and seniors are seniors. They live a couple miles away, or they live in our town. So, I think this is a great move, and I'm very grateful to have this opportunity. So hopefully we can move on this. So, all right. Any other comments? All right, let's vote. All in favor of accepting this resolution as proposed and seconded?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, congrats, thank you. All right, next up, we have appointments. We have nothing. Actually, the next piece we have is we have nothing under the mayor's appointments. We do have 2 new keys to the city being awarded. Barbara on Main and Wally Hartsburg. And I have a brief little bio that I'll read on these. So the first
Excuse me.
What's that?
Excuse me. Did you skip number 3?
Number 3. Did I?
Yes, I think you did.
No, we didn't. No, that was the OPM. Trish, back me up here. Or did
That
we
was the deep.
skip it?
I went from
the
deep to 4.
TOD, did we skip that?
I believe you skipped it. I just was going to say something to you.
Yes, I text you too.
I
Well,
did.
I'm not checking my text there, Chicago. I'm trying to run a meeting.
Yeah, I texted you too.
Well, I didn't want to call you out, so I texted you.
All right, well, thank you. All right, so let's back up then. Yeah, number 3, this was also discussed earlier. This is the municipal certification of resolution OPM 2022 transit-oriented TOD grant. And this was the one in the amount of $2 million prospectively. And we need to have the resolution in order to apply for that, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Sheila?
She's muted.
Oh. This is just to authorized to accept on behalf of the city of Ansonia a 2022 Connecticut TOD grant in the amount of $2 million for downtown TOD development.
Okay, I'll make the motion. on it.
I'll
Motion
second it.
by Bruce, second by Yauman. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Hey, thank you, Chicago. I don't very rarely thank you, but we appreciate that. Takes a big man to admit when they're wrong, and I was wrong. I skipped number 3, but moving on. Okay, so we'll go back to the keys of the city. There are 2 honorees, and I put together a brief bio on those. First honoree is the Barber on Main, located at 328 East Main Street. Owner Ron Cisbara has been a barber for over 40 years, and including working in salons in Trumbull and Shelton. Ron used to visit Ansonia with his friends to eat down the street and had his eye on that building. And 15 years ago, decided to start his own shop in Ansonia at that current location. And I did a little research on barbers. There's over 107,000 barber shops currently in the US, and about 1,700 licensed barbers in Connecticut alone. Barber on Main was recently named the runner-up for the best barber in Connecticut 2022 by the Connecticut magazine, which I think best of all is determined by readers, voters, and patrons across the state. So I think, having a growing number of best-in-class amenities, services, restaurants, and barbers is great for our city's brand. And it's a testament to how the mayor and the city administration and our board have strived to elevate the experience for our residents. And so congrats to Ron, your business, and thank you for choosing Ansonia as the location. And the second honoree is Wally Hartsburg. Wally is a lifetime Ansonia resident, and he worked loyally for over 40 years at Ansonia Copper and Brass as a machinist in the downtown. Post his working career, Wally has been a caretaker, a historical resource, and pretty much a walking encyclopedia for the entire Ansonia Copper and Brass factory site. He's graciously given well over 100 tours to environmental personnel, to engineers, prospective developers, and local, state, and federal officials, and was recently described by one Ansonia city official as indispensable and a go-to guy. So congrats to Wally, and thank you for your efforts.
Hey, Mr. President, can I add to that too?
Yes.
I believe Mr. Hertzberg is a Vietnam veteran. On top of that, I worked with him at American Brass, and he's a fine person, and very proud to know him.
Great. Thank you for that extra piece there, Joe. And we will get official keys to both of these new honorees. Next up, we have ordinances. There are none. And then we have 2 items under new business. The Ansonia, number 1 is Ansonia Economic Development Commission, RE Room 772 LLC Cafe.
I make a motion to send that to the facade subcommittee.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to send to the subcommittee by Rivers, second by Yaman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right. That'll get taken up and brought back to the full board after the subcommittee meets. Second one, new business, Ansonia Rescue Medical Services, Michael Warhola contract. Is John here for an update on this?
He's here.
Hey, Josh, can you unmute Sheila? Somehow I believe she's muted, and
I can.
maybe not a bad thing, but she can't speak.
I can discuss it if they're not up there.
So tonight we want to sort of set the table in terms of discussing a potential contract. And we're not looking for action so much as we are looking for, I think, an explanation of where we're going with this, permission to move in that direction, and then probably a salary subcommittee meeting to put things in place later in the month. And I'll let Kurt sort of outline what the elements of this contract might include. And before I say that, though, obviously, for those in the public not familiar with Mr. Warhola, he's our director of arms, has been working without a contract.
Intern.
For this time. He's been actually the interim, Chicago's right, the interim director. Although his attention to detail, his passion for the position, you wouldn't know that he was anything less than the absolute supervisor of that department. We're looking forward to making some changes and modernizations to the arms staff as a whole in the coming months. But we're starting here with the arms director position. So Kurt, you could explain a little bit about where we're going with this concept.
Point of order, President Short.
Yes.
Is it normal to discuss personnel issues and contract issues in public session?
So we're obviously not looking for any specifics. We're not looking to make any agreements or negotiate here. That's going to be properly reserved for discussions by the salary committee and by the Board of Aldermen. And yes, of course, when it goes into negotiations, we're going to use executive session. We also want to be transparent, of course, to the public about what we're looking to start this process with.
Yeah, just to kind of build up John's comments, and I'm just speaking for myself. I've been extremely impressed with the work that Mike has done on an interim basis. So it's been this way for close to a year, and I think it's time that we consider taking that interim tag off and move him to a permanent status. So essentially what we're looking for is just some general consensus from this board to allow myself and John to continue moving forward with some more concrete discussions with Mike on a contract, what it may look like, and then bring that back to the board and discuss that in more detail, and then actually have the board vote on that. So this is just the first kind of preliminary step. To do that, I would expect we could wrap these conversations up and have something back in front of this board for our September meeting to hopefully finalize.
I just ask a question. Do you have to advertise this spot, or can we just transition somebody to the spot?
I wouldn't think you had to advertise it if you didn't want to. I think that's entirely up to this board.
This is not a union position.
Right.
Okay,
And
that was my
since-
question.
You know, since he's done a nice job in the interim role, I think he's more than proved himself and kind of had a very long, extended, year-long interview that I think he's done very well at.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, as the commissioner over there, he's done a really good job, and he runs a tight ship. I mean, he done a really good job. He holds that, he holds the money down. He takes care of it. So I'm all for that. Keeping him on and getting him as a permanent guy.
Yeah, I would speak in support of that as well as an additional commissioner, that this is the right thing to do. And so looking forward to the future discussions on this.
Yeah, and I would just add, as the newest commissioner on arms, that you know, having an opportunity to work with Mike, he's dedicated to his craft. He certainly knows the ins and outs of arms. He knows the budget of arms very, very well. I think he's done a wonderful job. He was very inviting to me, always willing to have a conversation and get me up to speed on what's going on down there. So I would definitely recommend moving forward with a permanent position here.
Joe.
All right, as a past commissioner, I would say we learned our lessons from the past and that we've come ahead, pushed forward with Mike. I see no reason why we should hold back from offering him any future position.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, so are you just seeking authorization for Kurt to proceed and kind of sort of start crafting things together, or what are you looking for?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, this is ultimately the mayor's decision, but you know, we would like the board's kind of blessing on the contract is all we're really looking for. So.
Are we investigating this, or is there something already substantial in progress?
There's been some initial order. The mayor has asked John and I to have initial conversations, which we've started.
You feel comfortable with where you're at?
So with this, with this board's approval, we would firm things up. We would start the formal negotiation process and take it back to this board, probably in the form of the salary subcommittee.
Right.
And then if that looks good, take it to the full board in September.
Correct.
Okay, so you
That's at least the
need a-
timeline that we would like to follow, if it works.
Okay, so you need a motion to
Proceed.
proceed on the contract for
Yep.
Mike. Okay, well, okay, you got it.
Thank you.
Motion by Rivers,
Second by Yaman.
and by Yaman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you and good luck.
John, can you unmute Sheila, please? Sorry, Mr. President.
Yeah, I don't have the ability to do that. John can.
Oh, I said John. Sorry, Josh.
I
Yep.
think John,
I don't see her in the room.
She's dialed in by phone, maybe
Oh.
1598.
One of those
She's there.
numbers. I think
Okay.
it,
Yeah, 159.
She's already unmuted. Yeah, 1598 is not muted, but she's not connected. She's here, but she hasn't connected her audio. She's not muted though.
Okay, I'll tell her. Thank you.
all right. Moving on. We have no old business, or do we? Do we have anything under old business? Okay. All right, so ends the regular agenda. We have one item under executive session. Settlement Marks versus City of Ansonia and Burns Construction.
So I hate to tell you this, but I don't need that. I don't need that executive session. So
Oh, great. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Rivers, second by Tar, world record, 1 hour, 24.
Zero hesitation, Chicago. Nice work, sir.
Beautiful. Thank you all.
Aye.
Good night,
Have
all.
a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good one.
All right.